Hello, friends. So many years ago, before the magical invention of cell phones, we used to wear these things called pagers strapped to our hips. For those that don't know, the way it worked was someone would page you with their phone number, and you would call them back when you got to a phone. Given that I worked as an on-call technician for a company in the audio-visual field, my pager would go off like all the time. Our clients knew that if they followed their number up with a 911, that would indicate to whoever the technician was on call that day that they needed to stop whatever it was they were doing and call them back right away. Side note, it didn't actually have anything to do with emergency services. It was just like a little code, meaning that the situation was an emergency. But although I was always busy, I rarely, if ever, got 911 codes popping up on my pager. On one afternoon in late October, I'm working down in Florida, traveling from Orlando to St. Petersburg via Interstate 4, when my pager goes off with a number I don't recognize, but one that was followed by a 911 code. So naturally, I find the first exit and then I pull off into a little truck stop looking point just outside of Plant City with the intention of finding the nearest payphone to use. This takes maybe only 4 or 5 minutes top. There are plenty of places to pull into in that general area. I park my truck and walk into the place, asking my clerk for some change before I head to the wall where there's maybe like 6 or 7 different payphones to choose from. I pop a few quarters in before proceeding to check my pager, dialing the number displayed on the screen, and obviously excluding the 911 code. It rings and it rings, but no one bothers to pick up. Now this had to be the first time that this ever happened, as, like I said, it was an emergency call, which usually meant that some live music venue owner was in dire straits with some faulty music equipment or something, and my services were desperately needed. So there I am thinking to myself, what is this? And who would page me with a 911 code and then just not bother to answer their phone? It's right about then that I notice another ringing sound, in addition to the one coming from the phone. So I pull the headset away from my ear, only to notice that 2 of the phones over on the other side of the wall are ringing from receiving incoming calls. Now, to this day, I'm not quite sure why I did this, but I hang up the headset, having gotten into my head that the person that needs me is somehow calling one of the other payphones, even though, like I said, it's 2 of them that seem to be going off. But as soon as I put my phone down, the ringing from the other payphone stops altogether. So as you can guess, it was my payphone calling the other payphone, and maybe the other one was going off on coincidence. That was the closest thing I could figure. But here's where the story starts getting seriously weird. I walk a few places over to the other phone, pick up the headset and check the phone number. Printed above the buttons, you guessed it, it was the same number that I got on my pager. But my head was so fried from the whole thing that I had to double and triple check the numbers before it finally got through my skull what was going on. Someone had used that payphone to call my pager from the exact same truck stop. In order to call them back, there was no way they could have known that I was going to do this, right? It was pure coincidence, maybe even some sort of technical glitch, but it seriously put a zap on my head. I then walk over to the girl at the counter and politely, if not confusedly, ask her if she saw anyone using the payphones that I had been using in the past 10 or 15 minutes or so. This time, it's her turn to look all confused before telling me that I was the only person in the store in the past hour. I pressed on her, explaining the whole thing with the phone call coming from the payphone, but she just shrugged it off, telling me that sure, there could have been someone using the phone that she happened not to notice. Some help she was, but this was pretty late at night, so I don't blame her for entirely not being so observant. So the story had gotten weirder, but now this is where it gets downright scary. I get back into my truck, still pretty freaked out from what just happened, and I drive about 10 minutes down the highway before I see something truly awful. I mean, it's like a missile had hit the highway or something. This huge 7-car pileup involving a tractor trailer that was hauling a bunch of scrap metal or something. There were state troopers and paramedics all over the place, with dead bodies lying on the tarmac covered in white sheets that were stained with red blood. I slowed a little to rubberneck for a second, contemplating how if I had not gotten that page, that it could have been me lying there on the tarmac dead as a doornail. The timing was just too perfect. From a place I was heading in the direction of, none of it made any sense at all, but it somehow made too much sense also, if that makes any sense. Jesus, I can feel myself weirded out just thinking about it all these years later. To this day, I have absolutely no idea who called me off of that payphone or why. It happened to have been a wrong number, a technical glitch, or some other perfectly rational explanation for what had happened. I don't believe in the supernatural, I don't believe in fate, and I certainly don't believe my mom's explanation that it was my guardian angel or whatever. But one thing is definitely clear to me. If it wasn't for the mystery page recall, I could most definitely not be alive today writing this. Friends, that's all for today. Write your comments below and tell us what you thought about the whole story. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and see you soon. Bye.